Hello dear viewers, and we're back again. So mental health has become a central part of our daily conversations, yet many people still struggle to understand where to begin, whether they need therapy, medication, or simply guidance. Now, with growing awareness, questions about therapists, psychiatrists, treatment methods, and how to recognize the signs that help is needed have never been more important. So today we explore the essentials of mental health care and how the right support can truly make a difference. So we want to welcome Zainah bin Essa, a psychologist and psychiatrist or psychotherapist. So hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. So could you tell us the difference between a therapist and a, basically a psychiatrist?
Great question. So a psychiatrist is someone that went to medical school and will prescribe medication. A psychiatrist can provide talk therapy, but mostly they are for medication management, psychopharmacological help for patients and clients, versus a psychotherapist and a psychologist does more talk therapy, interventions, behavioral interventions. So it's different, but connected in some way.
So you talked about therapists and medication. So how can a person know whether to have therapy or medication or both at the same time?
It depends what school of thought you follow. So some psychiatrists would say, come to me first, and then if I deem that you need medication or don't need medication, then I'll refer you to a therapist. Some therapists say the opposite, say, please come to therapy first. Let's try to talk about it without medication first. Let's try to address it, make lifestyle changes, and then if that doesn't work, we can refer you to a psychiatrist. So it really depends on the school of thought. My school of thought, of course I'm biased, is come see a therapist first. Let's really try to address what's happening, what can we change and tweak before we go to medication, because psychiatric medications can be harsh on the body. So if it's not something we need, if it's not a very severe mental illness, sometimes we can cope with just talk therapy.
It's true, because as I understand, basically, when a person comes and they have a problem, it's like a vast sea. You still have to dive deep into it and see where exactly is the problem and see if there's an intervention for medication, but after a long session of therapies.
Yeah, I even like to say that medication is a band-aid, but when you take medication away, the wound is still under.
Very true.
So, you know, with medication, without medication, you're still going to have to address the wound and try to understand what's really happening and make changes in your life. So either way, I think both can be helpful. It just depends what route you want to take.
So there is a raising question that some people take therapy as a luxury rather than a necessity. So could we understand what is a luxury, what is a necessity, and why do people actually think of that?
You know, I don't blame people for feeling that way. Because think of, I mean, like a country like Kuwait. An average therapy session costs between 60 to 120 KD sometimes for 1 hour. That is a luxury. That is a luxury that many people can't afford. So in order to make it a necessity or something that's just a basic lifestyle thing, we need to make it more accessible for many people. Like in the West, insurance panels, insurance companies will pay for your therapy. So anyone that has a job can get their therapy paid for. So when I was working in New York, I had clients that were MTA cleaners. They were cleaning in the subway, but they could afford to see me because they had insurance. Versus in Kuwait, unfortunately, we don't have that as an option. So most people that come to see therapy have to be able to afford it.
But sometimes they don't take it as a luxury in the sense of paying, but they take it as a luxury of like, they don't have anyone to talk to, so they come to you and just sit there and just want to, you know, vent out.
No, it's very different. It's very different to talk to a professional that's specialized in what you're struggling with versus your mom, your friend, your partner. It's so different because this is the only person in your life that's objective. I don't have anything to gain from you other than to support you and help you. Versus mom, partner, sister, friend, it's hard to be objective because they know you in a different way.
And it's also very rare to find someone that is objective.
Exactly. So it's different, and my recommendation is it shouldn't be a luxury because it's like health, it's like working out, it's like going on a walk, it's like sleep. It's important to be able to understand yourself more deeply.
So for those who are actually, you know, taking their first steps into therapy, they want to know, like, when do I actually see progress and how can I measure progress?
Again, it depends on the school of thought and the modality you use as a therapist. So if you're doing more kind of CBT, behavioral, cognitive behavioral therapy, you might see progress sooner because you are really going in and changing your thoughts, your behaviors, your emotions. If you're doing more psychodynamic long-term therapy, which is what I practice, it might take a while before you see results, and you actually might feel worse before you feel better, because we're opening Pandora's boxes. We're going really deep in things you maybe didn't want to talk about, don't remember, didn't even know you had an issue with. So you might feel really depressed initially, or down or anxious, but with time and consistency, you will see results and you will feel better.
The thing is, people don't understand that when you go to a therapist, it's not about rewiring. You don't rewire the person. And if you do, it's not rewiring something new. It's basically tapping into things that they don't understand. At the same time, tapping things into that they, first time they found out about themselves, and they just need to express it more.
Yeah, a lot of people think that therapy is a magic pill. You know, I go one time, khas, it's done. I'm cured, I don't have to go back. But it is a very long-term process. Think of all the time it took for you to develop these thoughts, these feelings, this way of talking to yourself. You know, if you're coming to therapy at 25 years old, that took you 25 years of developing in that way.
Layers and layers of things, personality and years of layering.
Exactly. So it's going to take some time to unwire that, unpack that, come to terms with that, and maybe develop a new perspective.
Now, let's taper back. How can someone actually, you know, start therapy? I mean, so before the progress, before this, how can we take our first step into therapy?
You need to find a therapist that's a good fit for you. So I like to say that finding a therapist is sometimes like finding a life partner, finding a friend, and that there needs to be chemistry and a fit between the two of you. You can't go to someone where you feel like this person totally doesn't understand me or is very different than I am. Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes that's fine, but oftentimes you want someone where you can feel, I can relate to you, can relate to me. There's some sort of chemistry in the relationship, because having a good relationship with your therapist, if that's not there, the whole therapy won't work.
So what are the first indications that someone can actually see within themselves, or even if other people around that person can see, and then so you should take your first step into seeing a therapist?
I will always say listen to your body. Your body always sends signs and signals. Pay attention to me, listen to me, I'm not okay. You'll have back pain, shoulder pain. The
tensions that you take, you tend to tense your whole body, your shoulders, and that's kind of a sign that you're struggling with something. And it doesn't have to do with physical attributes.
No, it doesn't have to do with physical. It can even be, you know, struggling to sleep, struggling to eat, struggling to get out of bed and brush your teeth and take a shower. Those are all signs. It can also be, you know, when people start to notice there are things that are different about you, you're maybe withdrawing more, you're isolating more. Or I will say, none of the above. It could just be that you're curious. You have a desire to go deeper, to learn more about yourself. You're maybe entering a new life stage, a new relationship, a new job, you're moving somewhere. So in those stages, of course, we want to know more about ourselves and how to help ourselves better. So in those cases, I would say there doesn't have to be a big issue or an alarm bell. You could just be curious.
So as a therapist, what is the most therapeutic approach that you take with your clients?
So as I said, psychodynamic, which is how can we make what's unconscious and hidden from our childhood, from our early relationships, from our early days of development, how can we make that more conscious? How is that affecting us today? And how can we grow from that? So that's one way I practice. Another way I practice is this modality called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's usually used for trauma survivors. It's a more body-based modality, which is we're talking about the traumatic event, and we're using either eye movements or body movements to unpack the trauma and to let the trauma pass through us. It's very difficult to explain unless you've experienced it, because it can almost feel like your life is moving like a movie fast in front of you, and your brain does a really good job at processing it quicker when we involve the body.
So asking you how long does it take to actually see results, it kind of depends on the person.
Yes.
But do you need maintenance right after it? Do you have to still keep checking up with your therapist? Do you have to, even if you're taking medication or not?
It depends on the person, but I would say therapy is a long-term process, long-term. I've been seeing some clients from when I lived in the US, so I've been seeing them for 6+ years. And it's not that they need it, but they value it, and it's something that adds, you know, a groundedness to their life, it adds stability to their life, so they always come back. Some people are like, no, I'm done, khalas, I'm ready to move on. But then maybe some big thing will happen in their lives and they want to come back and they want to address things again. So it kind of depends on the person. Some people stay for a few months, some people stay for a few years.
All right, so a lot of people come to you and they have different personality, different experiences. So how can you tailor each therapy depending on that person's personality and experience?
So that's what's called person-centered therapy or client-centered therapy. So a good therapist will actually modify their treatment and their the way they work with a client based on the client. So say if I have a client that is very goal-oriented, and maybe that's not necessarily how I practice, but that's what they need, I will modify some of my treatment to address that. Because at the end of the day, it's not my agenda that matters, it's the client's agenda. I can have my own agenda, but as they need to also be in agreement with the therapy for it to work. So you always have to modify to make sure that you are, you know, addressing the client's concerns.
All right, let's fast forward to today. I mean, everything we've talked is about something that you would do inside the clinic, but let's talk about people living today. So when you're talking about, as they call Gen Z, are we in Gen Z right now?
Yes, the Gen Z. I think there's more generations now, but I don't know them.
So right now, when we're talking about today's generation, and with everything that they have, which is the hustle and bustle, the flow of, and flood of information that they see, whether on their phones, on their iPads, and knowing that we're in Kuwait when everything is like is given to them, whether it's like the salary, the sedentary kind of lifestyle. How does this actually make them, you know, respond in a negative way? Because we see them that they're kind of, some of them are careless. It doesn't have to be with the Gen Z, but in general,
Some of them, you're right, I mean, will struggle mentally because there's a lack of passion, there's a lack of drive, lack of fulfillment. You know, a lot of my clients will end up having government jobs where it's just a basma. They go in, they go out, but there's not passion about that job. So then my job as their therapist is to help encourage them to find what it is they want to do, what drives them. It doesn't have to be professional. It can be a hobby, it can be a different interest, it can be even spending time with friends or exercise. But we just want something that helps the person get up every day and be excited to wake up every day. There are benefits to sometimes a sedentary lifestyle in that it gives us space and capacity to
it also
really
gives you relaxation.
Explore.
You can basically just relax. It's a good thing when you're relaxing, but over relaxing, that's the problem.
Yes, so we want to encourage people to always be active, but again, not fall into the trap of I have to be so productive that my worth is tied to that productivity, and not the opposite as well. So there are two extremes. We want to find ourselves somewhere in the middle where we are productive, we are active, we are doing all those things, and we are relaxing and taking care of ourselves.
But how can you push that person to do something knowing that they're already living a life that they're very relaxed?
If they don't want to change, they won't change.
Oh, very true.
So sometimes it's, you can encourage, you can give advice, you can, you know, if you're seeing something that's negatively impacting them, you can let them know that this is what I see. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if the person's not really interested in moving forward or changing, there's not much you can do as a loved one.
True. Thank you so much for being with us right here in Good Morning Kuwait. It was very informative and very delightful talking to you, Zainah.
Of course, thank you so much.
And we hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
All right, dear viewers, we wanted to thank Zainah bin Essa, a psychologist and psychotherapist right here in Good Morning Kuwait. So we want to also take a short break, and I'll be right back right after this. So don't go away and stay in your seats.